When you're practicing, does it take you half a bucket of balls to find your swing, or you're playing on the course and it takes you the first 4 or 5 holes before you find your rhythm, you find your swing and you start to hit reasonable shots? What if I was to show you a way that you can find it much, much quicker than that? In fact, within a minute or so of doing the drill that I'm going to show you today. Hi, I'm Peter Knight. And if you'd like to find out what this drill is, watch this video. If you'd like to find out more about how I can help your game both today and in the future, then hit subscribe. Okay, let's get to work with today's video. There's nothing more frustrating than feeling like one day you've got your swing and one day you haven't. It's like the magic somehow disappeared overnight. The drill I'm going to show you today is going to help you to begin to reclaim that feeling of correct contact and control very, very quickly. Now, the key part is what's happening through transition. So transition is the very end of the backswing and the start of the downswing. And this is where the downfall occurs with a lot of players. So let's have a look, first of all, to see what typically happens when players get to that part of the swing. So the drill has a number of elements to it. Two specifically. One is how the body functions, and second is what the arms and hands do. So most players will get to the end of their swing. As they're swinging the club back to the top of the swing, the balance and pressure is increasing into the right foot. And as they go back, it continues to increase in the right foot until they get to the end of the backswing. So there's this constant increase in load onto the right foot. Now, there's a quarter of a second or so from here to impact. Now, if I've got all the pressure on my back foot, and worse if my body swayed sideways, I don't have sufficient time to get the pressure back to the left and have my hands where they should be at impact in it to enable me to strike the ball correctly. Now, typically what I also see with that pattern where players are loaded too much into the right foot, again, we're very time constrained here because we've got a short time before we've got to get to impact. If then the club and arms start to go first, now the movement of my clubs and arms is going to keep me on this foot. Now I've got no chance. So if any of you out there have shots where you feel like you're hitting off the back foot, this is absolutely for you. So let's go through and see what we need to do in order to get away from that and get you back to hitting good shots fairly quickly. So the first thing we need to do is keep the arms and the wrists fairly soft. So we're going to combine two movements here. One is through the arms and wrists, and the second is through the body. So if we start with the arms and wrists, if I allow the club to swing back and swing through, you can see that I've created this fishtail type movement. As my arms get back to the end of the backswing here, the momentum of the club keeps it moving. Now, as it's moving back and through, it's not moving around behind me or anything like that. It's like I'm moving the club back toward the camera, so it stays on a very uniform path, both back and down and through. So I'm getting this feeling of the club moving back down and through. Now, as it's doing that, you can also see the club face is staying pretty square. So what do I mean by that? When the club gets back to about here somewhere, the toe of the club is pointed a little bit forward of vertical. So definitely not back and definitely not closed. If you find that, it's either wrist movement or maybe you need to check your grip. So I've got the club traveling back and through on plane. Now if we look from here, we can see that as the club gets back to here, it's trailing my arms. As I move down and through, it naturally catches up to my arms and then passes them again. Now if I'm making that a continuous movement, we can see the club hinges my wrists, unhinges and rehinges as I'm going in both directions. Now it's not a sloppy movement, but so my fingers are firm. I'm not letting go of the club, but the motion's light. So that's the first component of it. So it's good to practice that in isolation to begin with. The second component is what the body's doing. So when I set up, let's say my balance is even on both feet. As I swing back, I'm going to put pressure into my right foot without my body sliding sideways. Now, as my body moves, I can feel the pressure increasing on my right foot, and then it's going to move back to the left. Now, I'm going to do it in such a way that the motion flows. So as I go back, I'm turning my hips, the pressure's into my right foot. Now, as I get to the end of the turning motion in the backswing here, or what would be the backswing, my hips are going to begin to slide toward the target. Now, they're not immediately going to turn. So I'm turning back, sliding, and then turning. So I'm getting this sensation of turn, slide, and turn. So I've got the motion very, very smooth. Now what we need to do is we need to start to tie all this in together and see how it works in the swing. So I mentioned when I'm swinging back, I get back to about here somewhere. Now I haven't quite completed my backswing lower body movement, and then I'm going to start to move forward. So this is almost the very end of the backswing, has me beginning to move slightly the other way. So what I need now to do is to tie that in with what my hands and arms are doing. So I'm going to begin by doing really little movements. So I'm only going to swing the club back to about halfway, and I'm going to get this sense of as the club gets to almost to the end of this movement, I start to move forward. And what you can see is, see how that club actually hinges more as I start to move my hips the other way. So it creates almost like a type of jackknifing effect. So I'm moving back, forward, and creating that jackknifing effect. Again, my wrists are not sloppy, my fingers are not loose, so I've got control of the motion of the club. It's still moving on plane, but I'm getting this flowing motion. Now it's easy to feel like that motion is quite exaggerated when I'm doing it with small movements. It does operate a little bit differently as the swing gets bigger. So now if I make the swing bigger, remember what I said before about I almost get to the end of the backswing and I start to move forward? So now I'm practicing that movement. I'm starting to move forward, as in sliding my hips forward. Remember, not turning them immediately. Starting to slide forward. Now I'm starting to get the feeling of that motion. And then I'll just allow the motion to complete. Be very careful when you're doing this not to be really active with your hands, because that will stop the movement of the body, and you'll lose the movement sequence. So let's play a shot. So now what I want to do is put all this together with just a small movement to begin with, just not a full swing. So I'm getting that sense of, can I get that feeling of the flowing motion? It will take a little bit of practice. Then as I'm getting used to that movement, I'll make the swing bigger. So now I'm going to make almost a full swing and still look to retain the same order of movement, the same rhythm, the same feeling of, as I get to the end of the backswing, my hips are starting to move toward the target and the club feels like it hinges a tiny bit more. Okay, a couple of other checkpoints that you've got when you're doing this drill. If I'm timing the movement well, as I start my downswing, my body slides towards the target. Now, my left arm at this point here is slightly below shoulder height, slightly below horizontal. At this point here, if I've kept my wrists appropriately soft, the shaft is still vertical. So what we do, we have a look at a full swing, then we'll stop and check and see what these checkpoints are, and if I meet them in this shot. Okay, so this time I'm going to make a full swing, and then afterwards we're going to have a look and see whether, as I'm moving correctly, that shaft is vertical with my arm down here. When I have that motion working very, very correctly, the feeling is very much that I'm not doing a whole lot of work with my arms and hands. It's mostly what my arms and hands and the club responding to what my body's doing. My hands are certainly sensing what's going on, but I'm not really active with them, because if I am, that's going to stop the lower body movement working very, very correctly. Now, what we want to do is get to the stage by doing all of these preliminary movements that we can work it into one feel really, really quickly. So when I'm playing or practicing, and I've been doing this probably for decades, my first shots, whether they're on a range, even into a net, and it doesn't really matter which club I've got, although I'll usually use something like, I'm hitting a 7 iron here, so I'll use a 7, 8, 9 pitching wedge just to start with, and I'll make the movements that I've just described to you quite small. So I start off, I'm making these movements and feeling like I'm getting this rhythmic motion going back and through. Then I'll sort of slowly build it up. Now that might be 1 or maybe 2 minutes. Sometimes I might do a couple, particularly if I'm pressed for time, I'm being called to the first tee, then I might do a couple of them where I'm just getting this feeling of overall motion, make 3 or 4 practice swings, then I'm good to go. So my body's already learnt what that feeling of rhythm feels like. So you can get to the stage where you can start to do this really, really quickly. So again, we'll play this shot. So I don't know whether you can see my breath has got the dragon breath, so it's not, my body's not warmed up, but even so, it doesn't really matter because the movement is quite smooth. And if that's going to be my first shot on a golf course, I'm going to be quite happy with that. Okay, now let's have a look at some of the things that can go wrong when you're doing this. So this is sort of like troubleshooting. If you find that you're practicing this drill and you're thinning a lot of shots, so the club's not quite getting to the ground, the reason for that is probably likely that the hands are beginning to get active, and as the club's moving to the ball, you can't help yourself, you've got to try and let the club move forward. Rather, what we should be doing is just move the club toward the ground. Now it'll continue to move the ground, strike the ground and keep going. So that's more the direction that you're aiming for the hands to go. Again, if there's extra hand activity, that can lead to thin shots. It can also lead to fat shots. The second thing, particularly if we're talking about strike points still, where the club is not hitting the ground correctly, especially now if the shots are fat, as the club swings down and through, the lower body's not moving forward far enough. So if I put this alignment right in the ground and put it in vertically, so my feeling, I've got that just outside my front foot there. So my feeling is I'm going to swing back, and now I'm moving forward. Now by the time my hands are at about chest height here, you can see that my left leg and hip are sort of almost touching that alignment rod. So my left leg's moved forward. Now if I haven't gone forward far enough, then it's likely that my club's going to hit the ground too soon. So that's quite a common shot, because having the body move early enough, having move across enough early enough, is quite a different feeling, quite a new feeling. But if you use what I've just described as a filter to watch the best players' swings, you'll find that virtually every single player does it. Maybe not quite to that extent with a driver, but every other club they will do it. So if you're looking to play your shots really nicely, great key contact, then click the link below and you can have a look at the videos that where I describe the key elements of contact. So we're looking at face, path, centeredness of contact, and finding how you can also hit really, really good shots. Like I said before, if you like this video, like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.